Hello, Yanji. I want to test my volume here because
Hi.
okay, I can hear you. I can hear you sharp. I just wanted to check if my volume is working here.
Okay, sure.
Sharp.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. And
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning,
Good.
Chair.
Good morning. Let me just take this opportunity to greet everyone on today's platform. Before I'll go into specifics, I just wanted to just give some house rules in regards to the virtual platform that we are using. Whilst we are on the platform, let's keep our mics muted. It's only when we are indicating that we are going to speak and your hand is being recognized that you unmute yourself and then you take the platform to speak. Also, let's ensure before any presentation that you just open your video so that we see your lovely face. And then you may close your video so that you save your bandwidth and then you can continue to present to us. So let me just greet all honorable members that are present here today, as well as our Deputy Minister that is present on the platform. Let me also take the opportunity to greet our team from South African Tourism, as well as our officials from the department. The committee called this meeting to get a better understanding of the active contracts at South African Tourism. And as you would remember, when we were doing our budget inputs, there were specifics that I raised in that budget inputs in regards to certain contracts. And I made mention in that budget input on the POM contract of over 100 million. And we therefore then as this committee, said that we needed to ensure that we find out all the active contracts that is under SAT. The correspondence that we sent through to the department, we explicitly requested information on the nature of the contracts, as well as what is the associated challenges. Now, the presentation that we received, it only lists the types of nature of contract and says there are no challenges. And their presentation does not entirely address what the committee wanted to know. And we would have sent it back to SAT to rectify if we would have received the presentation in time. We have previously requested that we receive presentations from the department as well as SAT on a Thursday, but we have now received this presentation on Friday, late afternoon, and that made it extremely difficult for us to go through it, for me and the team to go through it and then communicate with SAT to do some rectifications before coming to today's meeting. The way the communication is done is extremely frustrating, and it really undermines the portfolio committee. The information that we are having today, it's not helpful. It's really not helpful. It's extremely frustrating because when you go through the presentation as is, it really doesn't say anything. And I am sitting with complaints in my office from service providers on how SAT is treating them. And I'm seeing companies that have checkered pasts continuing to do business with SAT. There have been complaints in the public domain about Africa's tourism in Durban. But SA Tourism is saying that there are no challenges with its contracts. So it's therefore very disrespectful for SAT to provide this committee with a presentation with such poor information. And questions may arise around all these contracts that are being spoken of here. And what serious issues are being hidden? The committee will allow the presentation to be made. However, more details must be provided on the listed contracts. More information is needed, for example, on the New York and Nigeria contracts. More information is needed on the global brand campaign contract. More light should be shed on contracts with prepayments, as this has previously led to a material irregularity finding by the Auditor General. So in presenting to the committee today, we want full details to be disclosed and what are the associated challenges. We seriously need explanations. So after receiving the presentation, the committee will then decide whether more information needs to be solicited by the entity and what form will that information be required. Lisang, over to you for the second item on the agenda, which is the apologies. You may take us through.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning. The apologies I've received, Chair, from the members of the committee. We've got a full complement present. And then from the department, from SA Tourism, the delegation is led by the Deputy Minister, DM Soju, and then the representative from South African Tourism, the board chairperson is here, Dr. Mzamo Masito, And then the delegation from South African Tourism is led by Mr. Daryl Erasmus, who is the acting CEO, Mr. Tsepo Nkomo, who is the acting head for GRC and legal, and Mr. Mamiki Makolo, who is the general manager for finance. And then from the department, the director general is present, Mr. Vele, and Dr. Sipho Ngomani, who is the DDG for corporate management. And we have the PLOs, Mr. Kutie, Ms. Judy van Niekerk, who is an acting PLO for the minister's office, Mr. Ntlanhla Ngakaba, who is the PLO for the DM, and then Ms. Petra van Niekerk, the PLO for the Director General. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Disang. May I have a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Disang, can you assist with the hands, please? Is there a mover for the adoption of the agenda?
I do that, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Mutley. Is there a seconder?
Thank you, Chair, everyone. I also move, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Butalezi. I'm just going on the voices now. I can't see the hands. Before we receive the presentation,
There is a hand of Ms. Tlongo.
Oh, it's Ms. Hlongo. Thank you so much, Disang. Honorable Hlongo.
No, Chair, I want to adopt the agenda, so it's fine. I lowered my hand now.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Hlongo. So before we receive the presentation by SAT, I would just like to give an opportunity to our Honorable Deputy Minister, Minister Sochu, to make some remarks or input before I then proceed with Dr. Zamo Moshita or Mashito, who is the interim board chairperson of SAT. Over to you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all honorable members, and greetings to DG and the team. And also I extend my greetings to the board, the interim board, and the chair of the SAT board. Firstly, let me apologize, Chair. I am on the road. I thought I would be late for the meeting. I reported yesterday evening to the whip, but fortunately my flight has just landed, so I'm on my way to the office in Pretoria. Firstly, Chairperson, yes, I managed to hear your opening remarks, and I 100% agree with yourself. The presentation, indeed, it's not what we expected. It's actually very quiet on what is happening or who is who, and also the fact that even ourselves, where we are, we do receive some complaints from some of the service providers with regard, or contractors with regard to what is happening at the SAT. But unfortunately, as I have said to yourself, that SAT is independent. They account to the board. But at the same time, I would like to maybe give information with regard to the late receiving of the reports. I think the main problem in all departments is the fact that they might prepare the reports. I'm talking about DG and the team, and also maybe from the other side. They might prepare their reports on time, but unfortunately, they can't send the report to the portfolio committee without going through the minister, or without going through the board, the other side. Because yesterday I had a discussion just to wanted to understand why is it taking so long for us to receive these reports, because I did also indicate to you that even myself, I received the presentation very late on Friday. And I wasn't expecting that what then the challenges this side is similar to the challenges that we experience in other departments. That the presentation, before it can come to yourself, it must go through to the executive authority, who is the minister, for approval. Sometimes the minister is not around. Maybe it will be in the minister's office for a day or two, and then only until the minister then give approval on that, that can be sent to yourself. And in this instance, I also discovered that it does happen with Department of Tourism. And the other side, I suspect also maybe it does happen with the board, but it's not an excuse, because each and every individual knows his or her own responsibility in order for us to give to the members. You know, when I used to be a chairperson of a very huge portfolio committee or large department, I used to fight a lot, saying that because of the issues that you need to attend to, because you can't have the report today and expect it tomorrow then to engage with the report, because sometimes you must also familiarize yourself on what is contained in the report and even do your own research about the information itself, whether what you are being told is the truth. Therefore, I pleaded with my DG yesterday that maybe we should try and do better and make sure that 4 days, 3 days before the portfolio committee sits, excluding the weekends, you must make sure that the portfolio committee members get the report. I think it will be the same with the board, since the interim board chair is also part of this meeting. But Chair, I really don't want to say more to this, because I agree with you that there is a lot that is not in the report. Because one of the things that I raised yesterday after the meeting, when I engaged some, I asked them that, for instance, there was this issue that made the then minister then to disband the board of the Tottenham spares of the 1 billion, which was also a contract on itself, which happened within the period that we've given the report from 2020 up to now, but it does not reflect that what happened at the end, you understand? So one was expecting such information to be part of that, but because I don't have an authority of getting engaged in the report, because it's not my report, it's not the department's report, it's their report, SAT, as an independent entity accounting to the board. Therefore, we will listen to what Chair and the honorable members then will raise those issues. Then we'll discuss those issues with the minister on her return. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you to our Deputy Minister, Sochu. I'll now give an opportunity to our interim board chairperson, Dr. Zamo Mashito. Dr. Mashito.
Thank you very much, Chair of the Portfolio Committee. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the honorable Portfolio Committee members, and also good morning to the Deputy Minister, and also good morning to the Executive Board of the SAT. I've noted your feedback and constructive feedback, Chair, and I must say, as a person who is in an interim board, our mandate really is a few things that we needed to do to stabilize SAT. It's taking a lot longer to be able to fix and improve all the matters that need fixing and improvement within SAT, but we are making progress. So the issues that we needed to deal with pertain to vacancies, multiple suspensions, the issues that you are relating to, Chair, now on service providers, issues around governance, including the issue of the Tottenham Hotspurs. We're working on them. I can assure you that we are working on them since I've been here with this interim board. And I will let Daryl and the team first present, and then we'll be able to answer any of the questions that are posed at us by the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mashito. I know you have been thrown into the deep end, and there's a lot of work, as you've stated, that you need to still undertake. I'll now give an opportunity to the presenter of the report that we've requested. I'm not sure whether it will be the acting CEO that will be presenting the report. I'm not sure.
Chair, a very good morning to you, to honourable members, to DM, DG, and the board chair. Apologies, I was sharing, and for some reason my Microsoft PowerPoint is giving some challenges, so I'm just trying to restart it. But I am accompanied by Advocate Nkomo, who is our current, he's a legal service provider here at South African Tourism, an internal resource. He's also the current acting head of governance, risk and compliance. And as you mentioned, Mami, who's the GM of finance, is also with me in the room. So we will take some of the slides. Apologies, I'm just trying to get this PowerPoint to restart. I do also want to, maybe if I may, Chair, if the Portfolio Committee will indulge me, is just, I think, firstly speak to the content of the presentation. I want to foremost say to yourself as the Chair and the members of the committee and the DM that the content that exists in the presentation and your noted comment on the lack thereof is by no means a disrespect. What we have provided is the presentation, which provides a high-level overview of the contract status at South African Tourism, but we also provided the contract register, which is an Excel document. And the reason we've done that, Chair, is we've taken legal advice and we understand and we respect that the Portfolio Committee is entitled to all the information that is existing within our contracts. However, should we present details pertaining to some of the or all of the contracts, we would be in contravention of the confidentiality clauses that exist in those contracts. So what we are trying to do is just to mitigate sharing any information in the public realm on a public platform such as this, where we could be opening up South African Tourism to some form of litigation for contravention of our confidentiality clauses. So again, I just want to reiterate, it's by no means disrespect. The full list of the contracts is available, and I'm sure it was sent through to the team from South African Tourism. So we were happy to share that with yourselves for review. But we don't want to present the details of each of those contracts in this public platform in case we contravene our own confidentiality clauses. So that's the rationale why the presentation, to your point, Chair, is slightly light on information that you might have requested. I just want to confirm, if I may, please, Disang, if you can just tell me, are you able to see the presentation?
It's visible, Darren.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm just trying to put it into presentation mode. I'm not sure why I'm having issues with this presentation. I potentially might need, if Petra's on the call, if she can maybe present it on my behalf. As you can see, I'm having presentation issues here. It was working perfectly fine this morning, but for some reason it doesn't want to go into presentation mode. Petra, are you able to present on my behalf?
Disang, are we able to flight the presentation that we received from our side? Disang?
Apologies to you, Chair, and the committee for this. I'm not sure what's happened on my side.
Disang, are we able to flight the presentation from our side?
Maybe Petra can help that, Chair.
Okay, I see Dr.
I'm
Kuzumayo.
busy to get it. I'm busy getting it.
I see Doc is busy sharing.
Oh, now too many people are trying to see.
No, go on, Petra.
Okay. See. Hmm. Okay. Let me. Next slide. Can you see the presentation? I just got to get it in a different mode.
We can only see your file listing. We can't see the presentation yet, Petra, sorry.
Oh my dear.
I think you might just
Start
need to share a
again.
different screen.
Yeah, I'll just start again.
I just don't know why Dr. Kuzwai stopped sharing because he was just about to open the presentation. Doc, can you be assistance to us, please? Can you just share your screen, please? We have three-line whip today, so we need to release honorable members to ensure that they take the bus by 12:30.
Okay, Chair, Petra here, I've got it now in full sharing. Can you see it?
Thank you, Petra. We can see it. Apologies again, honorable members, Chair, for the technology issues. I'm not sure why my PowerPoint has stopped. So I'm just taking your instruction, Chair. We're going to proceed through the presentation, and then we'll take questions afterwards. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I'll do some of the presentation. I will hand over to some of the team members sitting here with me in the boardroom who will then take you through other slides, and we collectively will engage the committee in terms of responses. But just again to reiterate, the detail of those contracts is available and has been shared by South African Tourism to the Office of the Minister, and I'm sure has been passed on to the Parliamentary Committee's Secretariat. It is a full listing of all the contracts that we have at South African Tourism, which exists presently, as well as all the detail pertaining to each of them. Petra, can I ask you please to go to slide number 1 or 3? Yes, that's fine. So in terms of this presentation, we're going to be taking you through just some background. We'll take you through the historical and current data reflecting the number of contracts we've had and what business units they're aligned to and what kinds of contracts they are. We will then talk to challenges specifically from a legal context. And I'm going to get Advocate Nkomo to take you through that. And then the finance team, the GM of Finance, Mami, will take us through the contract values at the end. Thank you, Petra. You can go to the next slide. So just in terms of setting the scene, in terms of the Tourism Act 3, it provides us as the South African Tourism Board with the powers of a juristic person. It enables us to perform obviously legal acts, and because of that, we can therefore enter into various legal agreements. We do that in exercising this power. We do that as a Schedule 3A, and I think it goes without saying that because we are an entity of the government, we are required to give consideration and compliance to the different policy frameworks, the different regulations, the different instructions from National Treasury, any other directions, our own policies, but also importantly, the delegations of authority that exist and have been approved by the South African Tourism Board. Thank you, Petra. You can go to the next one. I think you've got one too many. You should be on page 4. Thank you. Just to confirm that South African Tourism as an entity does have a contract register, and just to reiterate, that's the register that was provided. This register is maintained and is updated on a regular basis to ensure that the contracts that the organization is entered into is reflected accurately. Those contracts are with other entities of state in some cases, they are with other persons and different kinds of service providers. And at the moment, we are moving to a digitized platform. So the one that we've sent you is an excerpt from that in an Excel format. But the team, together with the support of supply chain, together with the support of our ICT team, are in the process of digitizing our contract management process or contract management platform, and this will help us mitigate any errors, but also will speed up access to information, and we'll be able to prepare reports like this much quicker going forward with a digitized version. Then next page, in terms of the background, the register, which, as I said, is available and has been provided, does list all of the contracting parties. It obviously will list the amounts that are outlined in those particular contracts, and with reference to them, it will indicate start and end dates as well as any renewal opportunities that exist. And then very importantly, that contract register assigns the responsibility of the management of that contract to either a specific business unit or a particular business unit lead, and then it will give an outcome in terms of the status of that particular contract. I also want to mention, and I'm sure Mummy, GM of Finance, will talk to it, but part of the internal audit process as well as part of the AG process when we are audited is a review of our contracts as well as the contract register, and she will speak to the outcomes of that when she presents towards the end of the presentation. But just to take the committee through what kind of contracts we typically would enter into. From a service agreement perspective, the kind of contracts we enter into are with the likes of our Tourism Grading Council assessors. We conclude contracts with them. It requires a service delivery on their part, and they obviously are for a particular period and then are renewable based on performance. In terms of the funding support agreements or support funding agreements, these agreements typically exist within the South African National Convention Bureau. Members will be aware, I think we have taken the members through the South African National Convention Bureau. We have what we call a subvention fund or bid support fund. It's a fund that we utilize to provide incentives to business event organizers to bring their events either to South Africa, but it's also activated regionally, but also from a South Africa perspective. And we incentivize these business events to be firstly hosted within South Africa, but also have a very specific criteria that try and incentivize the utilization of smaller villages, small towns and dorpies when it comes to these support agreements. So these support agreements obviously are pertaining to a particular event. You'll see when we go through the number of contracts, there are a number for the South African National Convention Bureau, and the majority of them will be these support funding agreements where we support the business events because of the economic impact that these particular events have. Then an MOA and an MOU, we have a number of these. They typically are for the use of partnering with other associations like TBCSA and others. And then in the normal corporate support space and the business enablement space, you would have typical contracts like what we have in the lease agreement space. And then the last one, we have obviously the purchase of agreement and goods, where we go through a normal RFQ procurement process or an RFP procurement process, and that culminates in a contract in which we stipulate the goods or the services that we require, and obviously the payment associated with it. So what I'm going to do, Chair and Honourable Members, is hand over to Advocate Nkomo, who's, as I said, the current acting head of governance, risk and compliance. He's going to take us through some of the slides pertaining to the historical and current data around our contracts.
Thank you, Daryl. Good morning, Chair and honorable members. As introduced by Daryl, my name is Advocate Tshepo Nkomo. With regards to the legal function, we are a support function. We assist mainly with contract reviews, vetting, and drafting, as well as assisting with dispute resolution when it comes to contracts. In terms of the register, based on the historical data and zooming in on the active contracts for the FY 2021, we had concluded 180 contracts, and this was during the COVID period. But as I'll go on, you'll see the number grows. For FY 21-22, we started to become normal. We concluded 278 contracts. 5 from that period are active, which are listed as under facilities, 3 under ICT, 1 in brand and marketing 1. For FY 22-23, we reviewed and concluded 302 contracts. 5 from that period are still active, which includes the India office, the facilities and fleet management, 2, the ICT. And then for the financial year 23-24, yes, Patrick can move. Yes, for 23-24, we had a total of 249 contracts. 18 of which from that period still remain due to multi-year, the nature due to them being multi-year. I'll not go through the list, but those are the business units that have active contracts at the moment. And then for FY 24-25, we had 258 contracts which were concluded. 50 from that number are still active, and the business units have been listed there with the amounts of contracts that are in the space. And then for the current financial year, which is 25-26, in the first quarter, we concluded 69 contracts, 45 of which remain active. Those are the business units that are listed. And then for the second quarter of this year, we managed to conclude 76 contracts, 52 of which remain active. Now, when it comes to the challenges, as I've earlier mentioned, legal is a support service. The exercise that we carried when we got the request to do this presentation, we went out to the business to solicit the challenges that they are experiencing. Fortunately enough, for all active contracts that are in the register, they provided that there are no challenges. But I must mention that the challenges that we experienced for expired contracts range from issues from audit and AG, where now we had to withhold monies. But I can't mention the detail because the processes are still ongoing, but the information can be shared on the causes and the audit reports that prompted those challenges in those expired contracts. I will now hand over to my colleague, Mami, to take you through the financial spend.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, honorable members. Good morning to Deputy Minister and to the board chair. Chair, today I'll be taking you through the quantification in monetary terms of our contracts. I am standing in for the acting CFO who has an exam today, so he couldn't be here. So in terms of the contracts that have been spoken about today, we're currently in the period that we have the active contracts. Those amount to 2.6 billion. Our contracts are aligned to our MTF budget allocation, which is normally over the upcoming 3 years. And in very exceptional circumstances, we would have contracts that are for 5 years, and those are very exceptional. Our contracts mostly are allocated to our core program, which is program 3. And then that is followed by program 4, which is business events and in business enablement. So in this, against these contracts, we've made payments that amount to 1.6 over the period of these against these active contracts. Our contracts are monitored to avoid unauthorized spending against the contracts, and we will only make payments once the requests are valid and compliant. So it's important to note that what we pay against these contracts is carefully monitored, and it's only compliant payments that are made. Our prepayments, if any, have to be approved by board before the clause is inserted into the contract. So those controls are very important where we do have any prepayments. So there is a system to monitor these contracts. What is remaining of these contracts, which is reflected 1 billion, we may not pay that amount because some of our contracts are on a usage basis. So we do monitor that we do not exceed these contract values within the current contract management system. So in this effect, in 24-25, the AG audit found that we were unqualified with no findings in the aspect of SCM and contract management. And in the internal audit review during 24-25, we also had a satisfactory outcome with findings which have been addressed already. So that is the system currently, and that is the picture on a high level of what the contract values are, the payments that have been made against it. The details have been provided in the list of the current active contracts. Thank you on that point.
Thank you, Mami. Chair, the remaining slide is just abbreviations, and then if in order, we're happy to end it there and then to take questions. And again, just to reiterate, I take the chair's point and the point of the Deputy Minister about the information not being in the presentation, but I hope that the justification and the rationale behind not sharing it in a public platform is understood and accepted by the committee. So we'll leave it there and hand back to yourself and then take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Acting CEO Daryl Erasmus. Let me now give honorable members an opportunity to raise questions, make remarks. Honorable members, you may raise your hands. Disang, please assist. Well, on my side, I can't see any hands. Okay.
Chair,
We've got Honorable Songo, Honorable Lekharaba, Honorable Linda, Honorable Ismail, Honorable Chong. Those are the first five names, Chair.
Thank you, Disang. Honorable members, in that order.
Honorable Tito is the last one, yeah.
Okay, sure. And Honorable Mashabela, is she on the platform?
Yes, I will be the last
Mashabela
one.
is on the platform, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Honorable Mootley, I know they have experienced problems previously in terms of raising their hands.
I'm fine, Chair.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Honorable Mootley. Honorable Tlongo, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and let me greet everyone on the platform, the Deputy Minister and the SAT team and all honorable members. Chair, I heard the presenter, I think it was the first one, that said they cannot share some of the information because of their confidentiality clause or something like that. But then I believe, Chair, it can be submitted to us as honorable members and where our meetings are live meetings, but I think it would not be a problem for them sharing with us as members of the portfolio committee. Chair, in the presentation, or the presentation indicates that South African tourism currently has active contracts valued at 2.6 billion, but payments made so far amount to only 1.5 million. Can SAT clarify whether this is accurate or perhaps is a misstatement, given that we are already in the third quarter of the financial year? And secondly, are there any contracts that involve prepayments? And if so, what mechanisms are in place to manage and account for such payments? Also, can South African tourism provide detailed information regarding the contracts linked to the New York and Nigeria offices, including the nature, duration, and cost for these contracts? On the WWP, what is the current relationship between South African tourism and WWP Limited Group, considering the historical issues around the Hottenham Hotspur deal and the 4.1 million irregular prepayment? How much is South African tourism currently contracted with? How much is South African tourism currently contracted with WWP, and how much is outstanding? And what progress has been made in implementing the forensic report recommendations? Again, can South African tourism outline the challenges, if any, faced within the bid specification, bid evaluation, and bid and bid adjudication committees and how these are being addressed. And then lastly, Chair, on the tourism, what factors contributed to the reported operational challenges at the 2025 tourism indaba, such and poor communication with exhibitors, and also what lessons have been learned to prevent this in 2026? And then lastly, Chair, has the tender process for the 2026 Africa's Tourism Indaba and Meetings Africa been finalized, and who were the successful bidders? Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Tlongo. Honorable
Likaraba.
Likaraba.
Morning, Chair, DM, honorable members of the PC, DG Vere, and all department officials, the board acting chair, and the SAT. Good morning. On that one, the Tottenham, I'm covered with Honorable Shongo. Maybe I can sponsor some few questions regarding the presentation. What is the timeline attached to the completion of the digital repository system? And what is the nature of the 50 contracts that remain active over the year 2024, 2025, and 2025, 2026, particularly the ones with the different countries? Noting that a large sum of money to the value of over 2.5 billion rands has been spent on tourism execution. Kindly elaborate to us on what this entails in more detail and the value that has been derived from the spend. Does the South African tourism have active joint marketing agreements? If so, what is the nature of these joint marketing agreements, and with which companies domestically and abroad? How much is currently budgeted for the subversion fund for supporting the bids, and how is the value of the fund determined on usual basis? My last question is, does the SAT have stands or VIP markets at events such as Cape Town Jazz Festival and Durban July and other events, and what value is derived from this? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Likaraba. Honorable Linda.
Chairperson, good morning, and good morning to everyone on the platform. Chairperson, you have grasped this entire report when you made your opening remarks. So I'm also just going to make some comments and maybe a few proposals. So this presentation is really concerning. It reveals an entity that's focused on managing expenditure but not on delivering the measurable outcomes for tourism and for our taxpayers. So the core failure is the complete lack of a linkage between the 2.675 billion rand in active contracts and the tangible performance data. So we see inputs but not results. There's no evidence connecting this spending to increased tourist arrivals, job creation, or economic growth. So that's unacceptable. Furthermore, Honourable Chair, the sheer volume of contracts, hundreds are signed annually. It suggests a strategy of fragmentation that hinders proper oversight and creates a smokescreen for potential inefficiency and maladministration. The reliance on a manual register in 2025 is not merely archaic, it's a deliberate vulnerability that facilitates this opacity. So the discrepancy between the 2.6 billion in commitments and the reported 1.5 million in payments is unacceptable, and I don't understand that. It points to either a catastrophic reporting error or deeply dysfunctional system. So we need a fundamental shift in SIT. We require a forensic scrutiny of all the high-value contracts, and that future reports must link every rand of expenditure to predefined measurable performance indicators. Without this, the committee is failing its oversight duty, and SIT is operating without accountability. Chairperson, I want to propose that SIT develops a standardized template for reporting on contracts to this committee. The template should consistently, obviously, include total contract value, year-to-date expenditure, key performance indicators, and traffic light status on delivery, and any material deviations from any original contract. Chair, also what was a bit confusing was all the abbreviations. It uses a lot of acronyms, and without full explanation in the provided abbreviation slide. So for the record and public transparency, I propose that in future all acronyms are fully defined at their first use in the document, so that we can understand what I talk about in the rest of the document. Chair, I also want to propose that while current execution looks smooth, we should be proactive. I propose that SIT includes in its next report a section on all the potential future risks to the contract portfolio, and that is like the supply dependency, geopolitical risks, etc. So, and also the strategies on how to manage them. Chair, I can say a lot more. There is a lot here on my notes, but I'm going to give my colleagues a chance to respond also. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Linda. Honorable Ishmael.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to everybody on the platform. I'm going to say as well, Chair, I think you've covered us quite a bit. However, in order for us to do oversight, we need much more information. And while you were saying that some things are confidential, I think one colleague has already asked for it, and I'm going to be asking for it as well, Chair, through you. May I request that these contractors' tenders to be made available to us as committee members via email, so as not to put it on a public platform. So you can send it to the chairperson will send it to us. We will not put it out on the, out in public. But I think for our own information and for us to do proper oversight, we really need to get much more information. Secondly, is that you are really not telling us how you are actually, your job is to promote tourism. Your job is to bring more tourists into the country, domestically and internationally. You are not actually giving us much information where we can actually align the budget, your expenditure, your plans, and outcomes. I want to see return on investment. I'm not seeing this in this presentation. I'm not really understanding what you are telling me we are getting an output. I see, one of the presenters has stated you've put in some internal controls in order to address the AG, highlights with regard to prepayments as a safeguard. You said you strengthen controls to make sure that you don't go over the budget. Well, that's all very good. But right now, what I'm also seeing is what I think my colleague that spoke before me just said. We are having a budget, and then you are telling us that you've only got, I'm just going to look for it here in my notes. You have active contractual agreements worth 2.675 billion. Payments have been made against these contracts worth 1.5 million. How does this work really? I mean, we expect you to spend your money in order to get us outputs, and we expect you to obviously have your internal controls, but we're nearly the end of the financial year. We're in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And are you not then underspending? What am I not seeing? What am I not getting? Maybe you could explain it to me when you give us a response on this. And yeah, it's really very, very scant. So I think if we can get a report on all contracts from the entity with regard to the internal auditor as well, we want all the information so we can get a proper, we can make an informed decision of how you're actually performing. I think my colleague is touched on this. We need more information on international contracts, agreements like New York and Nigeria offices. We want to know value for money. We want to know return on investment. And then also we need more details on the global brand campaigns in terms of main contracts and subcontracts. I think this is important. We need to know who's the actual contractor. We need to know the subcontractors. We need to know what is going on. We need to be able to understand and grasp what is going on in real, on the ground. And then with our, WWP, there's been lots of negative media. First, I think with the Tottenham Spur deal, now again with the 4.1 million rand irregular upfront payment in 2021, which led to the material irregularity finding by the Auditor General. Please, can you give us more information? You have recovered, I think you said I'm not sure if it was a meeting that we had with the Portfolio Committee and the Minister in Parliament, but somehow I think you said that the 4.1 million rand you didn't pay it out with the balance of the amount and so forth. But we need to know what is going on. What was the actual value of the contract? What did you pay out? On what basis did you pay out? What is the outstanding amount still being given to them? We need a bit more detail on this. And while you will say that, there are certain things that are confidential, this is actually out in the media already. This is something that everybody is now wanting to get answers from, So please, can you give us more information on these contractual agreements with the WWAP and any other contracts that we have? I'm also worried about the Poma Express issue. There's been lots of negative media with regard to the Poma Express, the bid adjudication process. Can you provide a report to the committee on the 100 million rand tender awarded to Poma Express to organize events such as Africa Tourism in Daba and Meetings Africa? The allegations, in the public domain here were, amongst others, that the company had no experience and provided misleading information in the bid documents. In one of the presenters said that you had no challenges. But I mean, when you're looking at the Poma Express, obviously there were some things that went wrong or some things that, led to an internal audit. I'm told, I read it in the media. So, what was the outcome of the internal investigation on the alleged Poma Express tender? Who is responsible for this? And was there any consequence management implemented? I think the chair touched on this one. There were lots of complaints and talks by exhibitors in the 2025 Africa Tourism in Daba list with regard to the list, the registrations, etc. What actually caused all these problems, and what are you going to do differently to ensure that this does not happen again going forward? With regard to the marketing agreements, the joint marketing agreements, what type of MOUs do you have, with these various service providers or organizations? And are your MOUs different for domestic, when you're dealing with this domestically or abroad, or do you have one joint marketing agreement that applies to everybody? I just want to get more information on this. And then again, I'm just worried because we've already had issues with the Tottenham Hotspur deal. We've already had issues with the 4.1 irregular, payment with regard to WWAP. On what basis are contractors that have previously put on the restricted suppliers list? And have you restricted any contractors thus far? Can this list be also made available to the committee members, please? If you can't put it on the public platform, maybe you could send it to us just for us to have a general understanding of on what basis you actually restrict contractors. I know there is a restricted suppliers list on the National Treasury website. However, I'm curious to know how SAT is dealing with this and what have you done thus far. Thank you, Chair. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Honorable Ishmael. Honorable Tlong. Honorable Tlong, you may proceed. I think Honorable Tlong is experiencing technical difficulties. Honorable Tito, you may proceed. Honorable Tlong, you can proceed after Honorable Tito. I also just like to have an indication from Honorable Basson, because at the time when I was taking hands, Honorable Basson experienced technical difficulties and she was kicked out of the meeting. We had to accept it back. Honorable Basson, would you also like to have a bite and give your input? May I have an indication, Honorable Basson? Is Honorable Basson in the meeting? Disang?
Good day, Chair. Honorable Basson is in the meeting, but maybe she is not ready. Honorable Tito is also on the line.
Okay. Did they join the meeting with the audio? Sometimes if you don't join with the audio, then you can't participate.
Good morning, Chair. Can I come in?
You may proceed, Honorable Tito.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Greetings to everyone who is present, the department, and also the honorable members and the staff members. Chair, I have 4 questions, and then in regarding to multi-year contracts, what is the nature of the multi-year contracts, and also for which current projects are multi-year contracts awarded, and what is the value of these contracts per tender, and what warrants a tender to be awarded on multi-year basis? And also, Chair, on the issue of the Africa Indaba, which provinces currently right now for the 2026 have bidded for the tender to host the Africa Indaba? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Tito. Honorable Tlong, I think, has communicated to us that she's experiencing challenges with her device. I will go to the next person, Honorable Mashabela. And if Honorable Tlong have then
Thank you very much, Chair.
You may proceed, Honorable Mashabela.
Thank you very much. My name is Renelo Mashabela from the EFF, member of this committee. Chairperson, in the last meeting, we complained about black-owned companies that are swimming in debt and currently cannot pay their workers because they are owed money by South African tourism. We went further, Chair, to give an example of WWP because it is a black-owned company that is struggling to pay its workers and it is about to close down. The CFO did not deny that there are companies that are owed money by South African tourism. He also didn't deny that SAT is owing WWP money, but he defended himself by saying all companies that are owed money by South African tourism, like WWP, have outstanding documents to submit to prove that they finished the work they were contracted to do. What is shocking, Chair, is that this naked report that does not indicate if there are outstanding contracts which are waiting for documents in order for service providers to be paid. The CEO of South African Tourism is shining and enjoying the benefits of work done by service providers. He is refusing to pay. Black-owned companies are closing doors, and our youth are losing their jobs because this CFO is refusing to release payments of work done. Chairperson, in South Africa, we have a new crisis of CFO who think they are entitled to an envelope of money before making payments. This is a new habit that is crippling black-owned business because our people do not have the liquidity to sustain their business after a contract. They are in a state of hand-to-mouth, Chair. One delay of payment has the potential to collapse the whole business. Chairperson, this report is giving us a list of contract types which the entity entered into, but we are not giving specifics and details. For example, lease and rental agreements. We want to know what is leased. How much are we paying for rent and where? What if South African tourism is paying 1 million per month for backroom shack rental in Tembisa? How are we going to know if taxpayers are getting value for money or not? All pages, Chair, are just giving us a number of contracts concluded. We want to know the nature, specifics, and details of contracts so that we can visit some of them for oversight or ask around if they really took place. Chairperson, I propose for the rejection of this report, or else one day we will find ourselves in a commission or ad hoc committee on how we allowed such a naked report to pass. South African tourism must respect us by coming back with a decent report. This is a sign of disrespect which the committee is not going to tolerate anymore. Stop playing with this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mashabela. Honorable Tlong.
Chair, it's Honorable Hlongo here. Honorable Hlong has just sent me her 2 questions that she says I must ask because she's struggling with her network.
You may proceed, Honorable Hlongo.
Thank you, Chair. The first question is, what investigations were undertaken to probe into the 100 million tender surrounding Pom Express? What consequence management has been put in place? What was the relationship between this tender and the former CEO Guliwe? And has she been brought to book specifically for her involvement or interference with this tender process? And then secondly, allegations have been leveled against former CEO Sisa Nchona regarding irregular tender processes when he was still at SAT. Are there any ongoing investigations and legal processes in this regard? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hlongo. I know Honorable Moodley have stated that he's covered. He doesn't need any opportunity to pose any questions. Honorable Basson, I've not managed to get hold of Honorable Basson. And Honorable Buthelezi, were you covered, Honorable Buthelezi? I think no answer means that they are covered. Let me just hand over back to the team of SAT to interact with the questions that was posed by the honorable members. Over to you, Daryl and the team.
Chair, thank you very much, and thank you to the honourable members for the questions. I'm going to go through all the questions. There are a number, and I will answer those that I'm able to, and then I will pass on to the rest of the members of the team to augment. Honourable Hlongo, you mentioned the confidentiality, absolutely, and you were saying, I think, as Honourable Ishmael asked, are you able to get the list of contracts? Absolutely, that list of contracts is available. We will make sure it is sent through to you. In terms of the payments and prepayments, I'm going to allow Mami as the GM of Finance to speak to those. When you do receive the list of the active contracts, the contracts pertaining to New York and Nigeria offices and others will be included. Honourable Hlongo also asked about the contract with WWP. I can confirm that that contract expired at the end of August, to my knowledge. Yes, just confirming it's expired at the end of August. We are only in the process of wrapping up payments pertaining to the delivery of those particular contracts. And I think Honourable Mashabela spoke to it. There are some outstanding documents that we wait for. It is absolutely paramount, Chair and Honourable members, that when we make payments, those payments are compliant and that they have all the necessary supporting documents. So just to confirm that South African Tourism and the finance team and the relevant business units work actively with any of our suppliers to ensure that the relevant information that is required by us in order to facilitate payment is clearly articulated so that they're able to send that through and provide it as expediently as possible in order for us to process payment. I just want to see, there was a question here on the challenges of the 2025 Tourism Indaba and Meetings Africa. I think, Chair, those were widely acknowledged in writing, but also in the media. We went into our 2025 editions of Meetings Africa and Africa's Travel Indaba without the services of an exhibition management company. And we did so utilizing service providers, smaller service providers, and obviously the skills, expertise of the team. I think one of the biggest lessons learned from that is we absolutely need the services of an execution partner to ensure that we don't have any mishaps like we had with Africa's Travel Indaba, specifically referencing infrastructure. And in order to make sure that that is covered, I can confirm that the EMC tender has already closed. We're in the process of going through a property audit, and we're hoping that in the next week or so we will be in a position to award that particular contract. I just also want to speak to the host cities. Again, that was a process that was followed. We solicited bids from all the provinces in terms of the hosting of Africa's Travel Indaba and Meetings Africa for the next 5 years. That process was concluded in July, and we have already made notice or released a press release that Africa's Travel Indaba will be remaining in Durban and Meetings Africa will be remaining in Johannesburg for the next 5 years. There was also a question about multi-year contracts. I can't recall which honourable member addressed that question, but this is an example of a multi-year contract. So when we sign a contract, let's say with the City of Johannesburg, who is our bid party and execution partner now for Meetings Africa for the next 5 years, that contract will span 5 years and there will be deliverables and value attached to each of those particular deliverables over the 5 years to come. Honorable Licharaba also asked about the timeline, and I think that was with specific reference to the automation of a contract management system. I have spoken to the team already, and we anticipate that being completed in Q4 of this year. Honorable Licharaba also spoke about JMAs, joint marketing agreements. I can confirm that we used to utilize JMAs at South African Tourism in order to partner with specific partners to deliver marketing activities. It's not a vehicle we currently utilize. So I can confirm that we do not have any JMAs in that form currently within the organization, neither domestically or internationally. There was also a question from Honorable Licharaba about the subvention fund. Now that's the fund, as I mentioned in my remarks opening, to say that we support businesses or business events and the organizers of business events to encourage them to hold them in South Africa and also, more importantly, in the smaller towns, the villages, the dorpies. And that subvention fund amounted to this financial year of 17 million. As we review our allocation and our grant, as well as we review our budgeting process as we go into 2026-27, we review the efficacy and the return on investment of the utilization of this subvention fund. And then together with the board, we also obviously make the necessary recommendations about the way forward in terms of budget. There was a question also from Honorable Licharaba about partnerships and different events that happen around the country. I can confirm that there are events that happen around the country, as the Nedbank Golf Challenge, for argument's sake, that is coming up in the not too distant future in November. And these particular events do move South Africans. And part of our mandate is to get the South Africans moving, the domestic market moving, but also these big events like the Nedbank Challenge, which is being held at Sun City, the Golf Challenge, gets enormous international coverage. And making sure that we work with these particular events to market South Africa, to get the exposure we need to attract international tourists to South Africa, but more importantly, also activate our domestic tourism marketing initiatives to make sure we're getting South Africans to travel to these events, because we understand, again, the economic impact of these kind of events can have, and we need to make sure that South Africans are moving around the country as part of our mandate. I'm just looking at the rest ones. Honorable Linda made a number of statements, which we've noted. Measurability, I can see a critical, and also a recommendation here in terms of the standard reporting. So value, expenditure, what the KPI is and what the outcomes are required of those contracts, as well as obviously traffic lights and status. And when we have the new contract management system active, many of these different requirements will be very clearly articulated and captured in that particular contract management system. So it will be much simpler to provide that information quickly. Then Honorable Ishmael, you also spoke about the list of contracts, again, just committing that those contracts will be shared. I want to leave the ones particularly speaking to spend and contract value to the GM of Finance. In terms of the global brand campaign, again, you will find the contracts listed in the contract register pertaining to the global brand campaign. But I just want to also maybe elevate that the global brand campaign is work we do in South Africa, from South Africa, at our head office. The brand and marketing team do it. We obviously craft, together with the assistance of an agency and the input of various different stakeholders, our global brand campaign. But then the execution in many cases of the global brand campaign in the international offices and in the source markets, so whether it be in the Americas or whether it be in Europe or whether it be the rest of Africa, are done by the in-market countries. So you will have agencies who assist our in-market countries to actually place media buys and other, advertising spend and other things in market. So you will see the global brand campaign will be just for the brand and marketing work that is done out of South Africa, but there's also the localization work that happens across the world that is also part of it. I have spoken to WWP and just confirming that that contract has expired and ended in August, and that we are finalizing all of the outstanding invoices to ensure that payment is processed. Honorable Ishmael mentioned POM Express. I do just want to maybe again just reiterate, this was again in the media, but also I believe there was a statement issued, if I'm not mistaken, by the ministry. I think it was on the 7th of July, if I'm not mistaken. But this particular tender, which was an EMC tender, the Exhibition Management Company tender, was cancelled. So there was no tender awarded, and POM Express was one of the bidders in that particular tender. So just confirming again that there was no award made and no EMC tender was awarded and no 100 million rand tender was awarded at any stage. So just to place that on record. Honorable, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Honorable Ishmael also mentioned MOUs. The MOUs or memorandums of understanding we utilize when we partner. So maybe a good example is SACI. So SACI is the South African Association for the Conference Industry. And as you are aware, the South African National Convention Bureau, who is responsible for, driving business events and attracting international business events and securing international business events, but also the local component thereof, is very active in the conference industry. So we have a partnership agreement in the form of an MOU with SACI. And that also enables us to engage with the different players in the industry. It helps us to contribute to knowledge sharing, it helps us contribute to networking, but very importantly, it helps us access to things like leads. As members of the industry begin to engage with their global counterparts, we can then engage with them through the MOU that we have with SACI, and we also get leads, very important leads, that we are then able to work on to secure for South Africa. The last question I think Honorable Ishmael had was about the restricted supply list. I do not believe, as I sit here, we have any on a list, but should there be a list, we will include it as part of the submission we make to the Portfolio Committee with the contract register. Honorable Tito, you mentioned multi-year contracts. I think I've given an example of that would be the host city for Africa's Travel Indaba or the host city for Durban. These are contracts that typically are 5 years. There are a number of other contracts, in some cases MOUs, that are 3-year agreements where we work together with different partners to deliver specific outcomes. I think Honorable Mashabela spoke largely about the WWP, and I just want to reiterate that the team in the finance team, together with the relevant business units, are working very closely with the supplier in this case to ensure that all of the compliant document is provided to us that we require in order to fast track the payment of any outstanding invoices. And then I think the rest I'm going to leave to the members of the team to respond to. Who'd like to go next? Finance. Mummy is going to just respond to some of the questions around the finance slide. Thank you, Chair and honorable members.
Thank you, Daryl. Honorable Shongo, you requested clarity on the amount that we disclosed in the presentation. With regards to the contract value, yes, that is correct. Our contracts are multi-year, so the value that has been estimated in this contract is the 2.6 billion, and the amount that we have paid to date against those contracts is the 1.6 million. What is remaining is what is left of the contracts that have not ended, which are still active, and the liabilities that are still existing with some of the supplies that we are busy wrapping up. You also requested information in terms of our prepayment controls. In light of the material irregularity, we needed to strengthen and enhance the controls around our prepayments. We have included guidelines for prepayments for all staff. Prepayments in terms of the regulations are avoided. However, in certain circumstances, you are required to have board approval prior to having that clause inserted into the contract. We do then also report back to the board on prepayments that were approved and how much was eventually paid against those prepayments. But again, those are avoided. But in extraordinary circumstances where prepayments, those are outlined as per the Treasury regulations. Moving to Honorable Liharaba, you requested on what the 2 billion is spent on. It is mostly spent on marketing expenditure, both in domestic and international marketing. We do have contracts that are also subscriptions that are utilized in our research department and in our IT department, but majority of the contracts contract value is towards our marketing agencies that we utilize. Daryl did speak to the subvention funding. Our budget on an annual basis is 17 million. And that is dependent on an evaluation criteria of which bids are going to be supported for the year. So that is in terms of our subvention funding budget. Honorable Linda, the linkage in the contract value and the spending, the SCM process, which is the initiation, is followed to arrive at the contract value. So whichever bid that wins any tender or any RFQ, an SCM process is followed. The contract is then managed in terms of performance, in terms of the return that is outlined in the contract. And then spending against that contract is only when satisfactory work has been done and both parties are satisfied that all the deliverables have been met. So that is when payment is made against that contract. Honorable Ismail, the spending on the budget contract value, yes, it is our intention to make sure that we do spend the budget that is allocated to avoid any surpluses. The contracts are monitored to make sure that we only spend in terms of what has been committed and in terms of what has been budgeted. So in line with our budget process, we do make sure that in year the budget is spent for the contracts. And I think lastly, Honorable Mashabela, on the WWP, which Daryl has covered, we are in contact with WWP on a weekly basis. A statement is sent. Any issues are resolved. Both parties are aware of any issues. We try and make sure that payments are made once we are in agreement, in keeping with Treasury regulations. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I will answer the question from Honorable Tlongo on the appointments or irregular appointments by the then former Chief Executive Officer, Sisa Ntshona. What legal received as instructions was to undertake a recovery exercise as well as declaring the decisions to appoint both Letsema and Swift unlawful. I can report back to that on the Letsema matter, there was a judgment in favor of South African tourism. However, the SAT were only awarded profits or from the monies that were paid. In next week's presentation, I'll then give a detailed narrative of both of the cases. For SWIFT, it is still ongoing. We are busy determining the amounts. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honourable members. I'm hoping that that covers all of the questions that were raised, and we're happy to take further questions if the Chair requires. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Daryl and the team. Let me just find out from honourable members whether their questions were sufficiently answered. Honourable members may have an indication whether your questions were sufficiently answered, and are there any follow-up questions? Yes, Honourable
Chair?
Ishmael.
Thank you, Chair. I just want you to find out, I did receive a response to say that, if there is a list with restricted contractors, it will be sent to us. But I haven't received a response with regard to on what basis are contractors that have previously put on the restricted supplier list. I just want to find out what are your, on what basis do you actually restrict contractors? And maybe you can give us some examples of any, any contracts that have previously that you've actually decided to act upon. Even if they send this via email, Chair, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Ishmael. Daryl, there's a question posed by Honourable Ishmael, a follow-up question.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Ishmael. Absolutely, we can share that with you on email as requested, but I think also worth mentioning in this platform is that I've had confirmation we currently do not have any restricted suppliers or restrictions in place. I think generally poor performance or contravention or contravening the terms of our contracts would potentially be reasons for us to place, suppliers on restriction. But as I said, South African Tourism does not currently have any in place. So I hope that that is a sufficient follow-up. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Ishmael.
Thank you so much, Daryl and the team. I think I'll be doing the closing remarks, and then after the closing remarks, the team from SAT as well as the team from the department that is present, you may then take your leave after the closing remarks, because we will then proceed with the BRRR report after that. On the issue of confidentiality, we cannot use it entirely to try and hide information from Parliament. The Constitution and the rules of Parliament, it gives us an oversight mandate over the executive and the organs of the state, and that include South African Tourism. So in line with Rule 184 in the 9th edition of the Rules of Parliament, the committee will call a closed session where SA Tourism will be expected to provide all the relevant information. Now I'm going to read out Rule 184 A and B. It states there that legislation, these rules, or let me read from 1, meetings of committees and subcommittees are open to the public, including the media, and the chairperson of the committee or subcommittees may not exclude the public, including the media, from the meeting except when. Now I'm placing emphasis on except when. A, legislation, these rules or resolutions of the Assembly provide for the committee or the subcommittee to meet in a closed session. Or B, the committee or subcommittee is considering a matter which is 1, of a private nature that is prejudicial to a particular person, 2, protected under parliamentary privilege, or for any other reason, privilege in terms of the law, or 3, confidential in terms of legislation. So the nature of which is such that its confidential treatment is reasonable and justifiable in an open and a democratic society. So that is Rule 184 of the 9th edition of the Rules of Parliament. So in the meantime, before the date that we will consider to have this closed session, and we will confirm it, we are then requesting of SA Tourism to provide full information on all the contracts, so that this information must then accompany as well a full internal report on contracts highlighting all issues identified in regards to contracts from the 6th Parliament up till now, and this information will then be fully ventilated in a closed session, or what we call in committee session. So that is my closing remarks for today, and I would just like to again say thank you to DM Sorchu for standing in today on behalf of the executive, as well as Daryl, the acting CEO of SAT, and the team, as well as DG Vele on behalf of the Parliament with his team that is present. You may now take your leave as we conclude in-house with the BRRR report for our honourable members. Thank you. You may take your leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honourable members.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks to the members.
Honourable members, we are now going to interact with the BRRR report, and the presenter of the report will be Dr. Kuzwayo, that will take us through the BRRR report, and that will be followed then by inputs from the members, and then afterwards we will then do the set of minutes, and our committee secretary, Disang, will then lead us in the minutes. Over to you, Dr. Kuzwayo.
Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. May I please first check if the presentation, if the report is visible, Chairperson?
Yes, Doc, it is visible. You may proceed, Doc.
Thank you. Honorable members, in the interest of time, I won't go through the entire report. I will just zoom into observations and recommendations. Suffice to say, honorable members and Chairperson, as we normally say, this is your report. Ours was just to craft a draft. As you can see there, the watermark still says draft. And this draft we will remove after the members have made inputs and we have incorporated those inputs into the report. Then that is only when it will become a final report. As we normally request again, Chairperson, is that with all the deliberations on this report today, we'll request the committee to have a decision on the report, preferably the adoption, since we have as a committee to table the before the MTBPS by the Minister of Finance. The rest of the report until 7, unless if members, because the report was circulated to the committee a week ago, together with the report on the oversight visit that the committee undertook to Gauteng, which I I think will be considered next week. So unless if there are issues in the previous pages, because we are not going page by page, even in my discussion now, I'll be brief because of time. I will also not be reading through everything. I'll just scan through the observations, maybe then pay more attention on the recommendations. So if there are any issues on the previous pages, then members may direct us to those, and then we will make those inputs. So with the inputs made, then we will incorporate them, then confer with the chairperson on the incorporation and send the document for ATC. So on the observations are made for both the department and SA Tourism, and the same pattern follows also for the recommendations. There are those for the department and also those for SA Tourism. The audit opinion, as members heard from the Auditor General, in terms of the department, is that it was a clean audit, and that was a second year in a row. And with that said, however, there are issues in terms of supply chain, but we must say again that, like in a previous day, this will relate more to your DPSA issues, and the department did assure the committee that they are addressing these issues. On budget expenditure, which is provided in detail in the body of the report, it's just that the department had spent about 94.6 of their budget, which is an acceptable expenditure in terms of the amount of money that was allocated. However, notably is this issue of under expenditure of 128 million, and of concern to the committee was that under expenditure relates mainly to the issue on program 3 with expanded public waste program, where the department was not able to achieve the work opportunities as planned for. Now, also with achievement of targets, there was a substantial number of targets met, 39 out of 42, making 98% of performance, which is also acceptable by the committee. The issue of transfer payments, I won't go much because those are just specified in the annual report. But what is important there, noting for the committee, is that in those transfer payments is this issue of the Tourism Equity Fund and the Tourism Transformation Fund, the issues around the implementing agent, their CIFA not being able to disperse the amounts of funds that were allocated. And there was also under irregular expenditure, although I won't say negligible, but much lower than in the previous financial years. The issue of fruitless and wasteful expenditure also much lower at 41,000 compared to 4.25 million in the previous financial year. And there are issues of claims against the department, and the committee dealt with that during the meeting. Then the issues of human resources management, chairperson and honorable members, is that the department has a staff establishment of 507 and 440 positions were filled, and that translates to 13.2%, which is higher than the required, at least the set a cap of 10% that is set by Department of Public Administration, and that is attributed to all those reasons like resignation, transfers to other departments, retirements, and others. Then the issue of a policy review is another observation. that we will see when also we deal with this in the recommendations, is that the department finalized the white paper in the previous financial year, and now the tabling of the Tourism Amendment Act is due to Parliament. And in the previous committee meeting, the committee was promised that this will be done in the following financial year, which is something that the committee will have to look at closely when the APP for the next financial year is tabled. Also, another observation is around transformation. The general observation is that transformation is slow in the sector, but in particular, the interventions, your Tourism Transformation Fund and your Tourism Equity Fund, have been slow in terms of trying to address this issue. So there are recommendations in that regard. And also the Transformation Council, when the committee met with the council in the previous meeting, they did not have an action plan. So there's an observation, and there is a meeting that is set by the committee in the coming weeks to deal with this issue of the action plan with the Tourism Transformation of South Africa. Now, in terms of observation in regard to SAT, this is where there are many issues as raised by AG as well. The audit opinion is the first matter there. Qualified audit again, as in the previous financial year. And there are issues that were raised there by the Auditor General, the issues of trade payables from exchange cash flow statements, and the prior period issues, misstatements, internal control deficiencies, and also the issue of material irregularity that has to deal with the issue that the committee just dealt with now with WWP. And as members were saying, that WWP, a group company, is the one that was also associated also with Tottenham Hotspur. I think this is a matter. We just had the acting CEO saying the contract ended in August, but it's a matter that the committee will really look at closely when that meeting that was suggested by the chair, the closed session where the entity can really ventilate these issues to the committee. So also the issues of consequence management around the material irregularity, about particularly the implementation of the recommendations in terms of ensuring that the monies are recovered as per the recommendations of the forensic report. Now, there are issues that led to qualified audit, and they are enumerated. Is quite a number of issues that ranges from the issues of internal audit that is not properly done, misstatements, limited reliance that is based on effectiveness of internal controls, as the Auditor General informed the committee. But also at the heart of this are the issues of governance in the main, at the board level, risk management and compliance. The committee heard about even the issues of not reconciling your monthly cash flow statements, which is at a basic level of accounting by the entity. So those are the issues that led to the qualified audit opinion, and these are the issues that the committee will have to look at moving forward. Financial performance in terms of the budget that they spent against the targets achieved, that leaves much to be desired. There was irregular expenditure as indicated there, which are around 25 4.2 million. And if you look at that amount, some of it was carried over from the previous financial year. So there are matters that are still under investigation that have not been finalized. There are also issues of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And the issue there was around the splitting of quotations and the appointment of the specification committee. So in the meeting that the committee just had now, the entity saying there are no issues, because there was a question raised by the members around these three committees: the bid specific committee, the bid evaluation, and the bid and the awarding, the actual awarding of the tenders. And they said there were no issues. But in terms of the Auditor General, there was an issue where there was an appointment of a bid specific committee and a bid evaluation committee, which was not in accordance with the delegation authority. Yet the entity said there was no issue in terms of these committees. So these are the issues that the committee may advance in that closed session, because seemingly, I won't say there was no full disclosure in the meeting that the committee just had, but indeed there are issues that need to be dealt with by the committee. Material irregularities, one issue. That 4.1 million is an issue that has not been resolved as yet in terms of recovering that money. Another important issue is the issue of the TOMSA levy, and the committee had that at the end of the financial year, the TOMSA levy had not been paid over for the previous financial year, and there were threats issued in the public domain that that TOMSA levies won't be paid, and there was an amount of 500 million that was touted in the media that they have said they are not going. So if that is not paid, this will be the second year in a row where TOMSA levies have not been contributed to SAT. I will skip these other issues, then deal with the issues of governance and human resources. On governance is the whole issue of the board, and on the day of a meeting, which was on the 14th of October, that was the day when the issue between the dissolved board and the minister was heard by the Gauteng High Court. And subsequent to that meeting, I think the members have seen that the matter has not been resolved because the court did not hear the matter, so the matter is still sub judice. So it's a matter that the committee needs to pay close look at, because if then there is a call of board of the new board, yet the previous board is still taking the minister to court and the matter is not resolved, that might have implications on the appointment of the new board. So this is just information that is provided, the board circumstances around the table of the annual report. These are the issues I've just been highlighting now to say the matter is still before the courts and is not being addressed. Then there are issues of suspensions and vacancy rate, and the committee just had the interim board chair now saying they are dealing with these issues, but I think maybe when they come for first quarter report, then they'll have to provide a full report in terms of where they are, in terms of those people that are on suspension, the hearings thereof, including the chief executive officer, for the committee to get a full status of where issues are. Then the achievement of targets, as much as there was an increase of 10% from the previous financial year, the performance is still low compared to budget spent. Then the issues that led to non-achievement of targets are summarized in those three by the AG: instability and senior management and board level, the lack of oversight and inadequate review of annual financial statements, and the lack of preventative controls. So these are the issues that the committee also, in moving forward, needs to look at in terms of resolution, because if they're not resolved, there will be another qualified audit. Now, we are moving to recommendations, Chairperson and honorable members. As I said, the recommendations are made to both the Minister of Finance and Minister of Tourism. Since this is the budgetary review and recommendations report, amongst others, the reason is for the committee to review the work of the department and the entity and see what recommendations, proposals for budget moving forward can be made for the Department of Tourism. So there are two pointed recommendations that the committee is making to the Minister of Finance. Members will recall that the Tourism Equity Fund, for example, is fully committed, and the Tourism Transformation Fund also is near depletion, and yet there is a lot that still needs to be done in terms of transformation. So the recommendation there is for a ring-fence budget for these two funds to be recapitalized, meaning for more funds to be made available that will just deal specifically with the Tourism Transformation Fund and Tourism Equity Fund. Other issues of efficiencies and or inefficiencies in regard to disbursement of funds are the matters of oversight that the committee must be seized with, as issues are, but the committee cannot stop recommending for more funding whilst the issues of efficiencies are being dealt with. Also, 8.1.2 there, the committee is cognizant of the fact that there are national fiscal constraints generally across government, but given the contribution that the tourism sector makes, it is recommended that the Ministry of Finance considers really increasing the budget that is appropriated to tourism so that these issues of tourism development and marketing can be intensified to ensure that the sector creates more labor-intensive job opportunities, because the sector has proven that it can create jobs, and it has proven itself that it can contribute to GDP. So if more funding is provided, then the sector can grow and more jobs can be created. So those are the two that are made in terms of finances and increase of finances. That ring fence budget in terms of the transformation fund and equity fund, and also a general recommendation for increase of funds in relation to tourism development, tourism marketing, that's contributing to labor-intensive jobs and gross domestic product of the country. Now, for the financial and non-financial related recommendations, that looks holistically to the work that is done by the department in terms of its mandate. The issues that are recommended to the Minister of Tourism, one is the issue of tabling the Tourism Amendment Bill in the next financial year, is for the Minister to engage the Development Bank of Southern Africa. We say the Minister because the Minister has to, where we say the Minister, it may not be the Minister per se, honorable members and chairperson, but the Minister has to ensure that DPSA is engaged to ensure that there's improvement in terms of their supply chain, as whatever findings in terms of their supply chain management and other issues, the impact on the audit outcomes of the department. 8.2.3 is the whole review of the methodology of implementing the infrastructure projects. As the committee once discussed in one of the meetings, that you may look at implementing fewer but high impact projects instead of implementing many projects that are left out there, that are not operational, and that even if they're operational, they do not make high impact in community. So I'm looking for fewer but high impact implementation of tourism infrastructure projects moving forward, which will help also with creation of those job opportunities. Also, the issue of multi-year projects that are not reported to in the quarterly reports because they are not in the IPP, to say on quarterly basis when the department makes quarterly reports, they must include an annexure of all the projects that are not in the business plan so that the committee has a full picture of what is being implemented. And also in terms of oversight over this project, particularly those that are implemented at Development Bank of Southern Africa, the minister must make sure that these are delivered according to the initial scope of work. That is the first thing. They must cover the scope of work. But as members saw when you were on the field, there will be a new scope of work that is identified by the professional service providers on site, and you cannot therefore say the project has reached its practical completion without issues such as bulk water, infrastructure, electricity, and so on are not connected to the project. So another recommendation there is for proper planning of projects at conceptualization stage, because that is where the problem is, and it delays implementation during the project. So that will then lead to non-achievement of targets. So it's for the department to ensure that when projects are conceptualized, everything is taken care of. And also now at the issue of HR, yes, they have said the cost content measures have been removed, but the department has to ensure that within the limited budget, they ensure that the staff complement, particularly those that are in critical positions, are appointed. The disbursement of the Transformation and Equity Fund also should be expedited. That goes hand in hand with 8.2.9 to say where the implementing agents needs to be removed, they needs to be removed, the new ones are appointed. And also the issue of the simplification of the qualifying criteria for funding instruments. When members met stakeholders, particularly the meeting that was at the offices of the department, there were people who were saying they are tour operators, but they are not funding through the equity fund nor the transformation fund, because the fund does not fund vehicles. So the qualifying criteria there should really look across the tourism value chain, not only the brick and mortar, but whatever is a business vehicle for whatever entrepreneur must be. If it needs to cover vehicles for tour operators, that is something that needs to be looked at in terms of the criteria. And also in terms of under expenditure, there's that 128 million we talked about, to say the department must put measures in place, the controls and so on, to ensure that there are no recurring issues in terms of that, particularly implementation of the EPWP projects. Also with regard to township tourism, when members were out there, particularly when the committee visited the Soweto Hotel precincts, there were many issues that were identified the committee and the potential for growth in that area. So this recommendation is in that regard, to say, for example, there should be improved focus on township tourism throughout the country, not just in Soweto, throughout the country, but based now particularly on the recent oversight. There are low-hanging fruits. There are issues that can be done now for Soweto Hotel, for example, like the green tourism incentive program. Remember, so when you went to Cullinan, that you have a facility that has been assisted with energy efficiencies and so on. So that can be done for Soweto Hotel, market access program, grading support. They were last graded in 2019. They're still displaying a plaque there of a star grading that has expired. So these are the issues that do not need money, new money. Let me say new money, because these programs are already there and they are funded, so they can be easily accessed. But for the entire precinct now in 8.2.13 is for the destination development team of the department to really go to that precinct where the committee was, to look at the entire precinct plan development together with the Gauteng province, because they said they are doing some work there to see what the department can do from tourism destination development point of view. And also in regard to this particular 12 and 13, provide the committee with regular updates on the no, this is a new one now. It deals with cases. There are cases that are opened. I'm not sure here the committee will decide, Chairperson, as it is the case with SAT. There were forensic reports that were conducted by the department in the 6th Parliament. There was a closed session meeting which discussed that report, because there are cases that are in court that have been opened against certain service providers and against certain officials that are still serving within the department. But it's part of those issues that could not be ventilated in public, so they had to be in a closed session. So there needs to be regular update on these cases with the law enforcement agencies, because the major issue there, committee members, was that the state attorney advised the department that the cases should be heard in provinces where projects are. So it decentralized the prosecution into various provinces. Therefore, it delays the enforcement on these issues. So we don't know where matters are, but there needs to be reporting. So we stay also as a standard briefing matter without mentioning names, but the committee needs to know on quarterly basis where these issues are. And then also there's an issue of the oversight priority plan that the committee maybe we need to take the committee chairperson through this, because it's a matter that has not been fully discussed with the committee yet. The Parliament, in terms of its APP for the current financial year, the committee section where we belong as the PC on tourism is implementing the oversight priority plan, which is not just a committee section target, but is a parliamentary target. So they've identified a number of committees, and tourism is one of them, on infrastructure. So we have to report on quarterly basis on this oversight priority plan to say where we are. We have to, the first report should be on the 29th of November. The chairperson has already written a letter to the minister to request that by the 15th, the committee is provided with, as the information comes, a report will be compiled. It will serve before the committee. The committee will approve that report. Then the report will then be ATC'd in terms of how we are conducting oversight over the infrastructure programs and creation of jobs through these infrastructure projects. On 8.2.16, honorable members, is for the department to introduce more programs that focus on domestic tourism in collaboration with private sector, to ensure that, for example, we are approaching the festive season. what programs are there to ensure that South Africans are traveling in their country. So that needs a collaboration between, for example, SAT and private sector in terms of discounted rates and so on and so on. So there's quite a lot of things that can be done to introduce more programs. We have a short left campaign, but you need more of such to be introduced during the 7th administration. 8.2.17, also more programs are needed for rural tourism. That has to do with your whole VTSD approach, villages, township, and small dorpies, to include all kinds of issues like addressing inadequate infrastructure in rural tourism, human resource limitations in terms of training for staff that are in rural areas, social and cultural heritage challenges like you saw when you visited where the heritage sites are not maintained and so on and so on, marketing and promotion, regulatory barriers. This mainly has to do also with issues of zoning and so on. So these are the issues that need to be addressed to ensure that rural tourism is improved. 8.2.18 also is an ongoing matter with the whole visa regime, and the committee is aware that Home Affairs has introduced the trusted tour operator scheme with a limited number. So if more of those can be included to ensure that we have not for your China and India, but for other markets as well, where Home Affairs will be satisfied that it is safe to do so. 8.2.19, also the issue of domestic airlift and international domestic airlift is a problem. The domestic flights are very expensive, and some destinations or some major towns do not have direct flights. So this is an issue where the minister has to engage airlines to ensure that you have domestic airlift, and also the issue of pricing, but also international access. The committee still has to hear the strategy in terms of the route development strategy, what is happening in terms of the air access. So that is the recommendation. 8.2.20 is a review of many sector strategies. The committee will recall that when we're doing our strat plan, an undertaking was made that those issues that are in the strategic plan will then be included in the BRRR, so that they don't just sit in the strategic plan of the committee, but they are communicated to the minister, so that what the committee is planning is in line with what has been communicated to the minister for actioning. So this is one of those issues. They are not in the strat plan. The review of these strategies are not in the 5-year strategic plan of the committee of the department, but the committee has identified that you need to review because they are old. They are more than 10 years old, so they need to be reviewed so that they are in line as the committee discussed the matter during the strategic planning session. Also, the issue of adopting the whole government approach is a matter that comes from the committee strat plan, where you say there needs to be a removal of all the barriers in the tourism sector, number of departments to be included, for example, to deal with issues of safety of tourism, access issues of environmental protection, infrastructure development, maintenance, regulatory removal of the red tape, access to finance by small businesses, the whole issue of the visa regime and skill. So this is across various departments, and there will be colloquiums and so on. As the committee said, there will be joint committee meetings like the committee just did with Department of Employment and Labor on the issue of illegal foreign laborers within the sector, as was discussed in the strat plan. Also, when the committee conducts oversight visits, there are many issues. This matter was raised with the department in the previous parliament. In most cases, what will happen is that the committee will be accompanied by the PLO. Then staff members will be sent by the department, but in most cases, the department will send junior staff members that can neither make any commitments on the ground. So it's a matter that the staff needs to go and report in the. So the committee in the previous parliament had said. So this is like this committee is revitalizing the recommendation that was made in the previous to say when you go on oversight, there needs to be senior, like at a level of a deputy director general if the director general cannot be there. So it cannot just be people at a low level. A director does not suffice when you go out on oversight, because some issues cannot be responded to, or some commitments, because those people are not in a strategic management, they don't know the plans in terms of those issues, so they cannot, so they'll say it's going to take matters back, so matters remain unresolved. So this is a matter that the committee needs to take seriously with the minister, to say whenever the committee goes on oversight, there should be a senior official that can assist the committee on the ground. Also on events, the committee raised that issue to say when the invites are issued, they come late, the members cannot attend because the invites come late. So it's a matter of those invites being issued timelessly, so that members, the whole committee, or members where the events are in their local constituencies or provinces can then attend. So also there was the whole issue of niche tourism offerings that the committee discussed. Issues around agri-tourism, sports tourism, cruise tourism, health tourism, and so on and so on. So to say these needs to be mainstreamed within the 7 parliament. So we are taking this from the APP and the strategic plan now into the BRRR, so that it is a formal recommendation as the committee discussed to say these issues must be done. Also, incorporation of digital transformation within the tourism sector. Also, a recommendation on marketing budget, to say you have a lot of marketing endeavors by municipalities, by provinces, by SA Tourism. They are not coordinated. So you need to rationalize this and come up with a plan to see how you collaborate as government across spheres. So the minister has to drive that initiative. Another recommendation is that these issues, that all the projects that are implemented by the department must include your SDGs. And remember, the committee raised this issue seriously during the strat plan, and to say in particular goal 1, goal 5, goal 8 and goal 10, which are in line with the 3 priorities of the 7th administration, and therefore priorities of the committee. So those are the recommendations, honorable members, in relation to the Department of Tourism, to the minister in relation to the Department of Tourism. Some of those issues you may see that they are not necessary issues that need to be done by the department, but is for the minister to engage her counterpart. So when the minister reports back in terms of the execution of these recommendations, then the committee will then see how the minister has gone about in effecting these recommendations. Now we're coming to the recommendations in relation to South African tourism, continuing now with 8.2.8. So is the whole issue of expediting the appointment of the new board, but being cognizant of the fact that you still have these issues in the High Court. So the minister must navigate this appointment all at the same time, making sure that there are no issues around the matters. So that's a matter, I think, where maybe the minister will need to get a legal opinion in terms of how she navigates this issue. But it is her matter. Your matter as a committee, you are just recommending to the minister that the new board of SAT must be appointed as soon as possible. And also filling of the vacant position, particularly at a strategic management, so including your chief financial officer, your chief executive, audit executive. So this is not just these posts only, there are many others, but in general, it's just to say you are filling all key vacant positions. We are just saying including, but the main recommendation is the filling of all key vacant positions. 8.2.30 is to now address these issues that were raised by Auditor General in ensuring that there are necessary and effective internal financial controls in matters such as record keeping, doing daily and monthly reconciliation, compiling cash flow. These are basic financial management issues that were discovered by the AG. So the committee, as recommended by the AG to the committee, now the committee is recommending the same to the minister. Ensure that the disciplinary processes for suspended staff is prioritized. There is staff, in addition to filling the posts, there are people that are on suspension, including the CEO. So this should be fast-tracked so that people are either cleared and they go back to their positions, or if then found guilty, then they are removed and new people are appointed. But this issue of acting, as the committee went to the meeting with SAT in their offices, is like everyone is acting there, including the acting CEO that just presented to the committee now. 8.233 is for the board, the board that is, or because they have all the fiduciary responsibilities, is to ensure that whilst waiting for the new board, capacity building, particularly for the staff in finance, because if these things are not done, we will have another problem. So there seems to be a problem with the finance department if they cannot even do things like cash flow reconciliation statements and stuff. So there needs to be urgent intervention in terms of ensuring that they're able to compile financial statements without misstatements. So that needs some capacity building as a stopgap measure whilst serious issues are being addressed. Also, the bidding and supply chain needs to be addressed. There was that issue of splitting of bids and so on, and also appointment of bids. So the whole bidding and supply chain management process needs to be taken care of. So the minister needs to ensure that those issues are addressed, and the full implementation of marketing strategies in terms of your domestic and international marketing. That is very important, because if you look at the annual performance plan, those were not achieved. So it's a serious concern if you're not gonna achieve your global brand campaign. Therefore, people are not coming to South Africa. People are not coming to South Africa. Then you are not creating jobs, because sustainable jobs are created now in the private sector. Sustainable jobs are created by arrivals, and one job is measured according to a number of arrivals in a particular destination. 36 is also to ensure that the board implements recommendations of the investigation report on material irregularity. That talks to that issue of WWP that we're talking about in the observations. And also the last one is the issue about the TOMSA levies for the minister to ensure that, because there is a memorandum of understanding, if TPSSA does not transfer funds, because they've already collected these funds. These funds are not for TPCSA or TOMSA levy as organization. These are funds that are collected 1% from every establishment that is a levy collector. Whenever people visit these TOMSA levy collectors, 1% is charged, and that 1% is sent to TPSA. So TPCSA is sitting with the money that has been collected, but they just take a decision that they are not going to transfer this. And if you look at what is in the public domain, they are saying because of the board issues of the minister having dissolved the board and so on, that is not, in our view, committee members, that is not in their domain to say we are not going to honor the memorandum of agreement because there are these issues. They have to honor the memorandum of agreement, and they have to send the money over to SAT, because that money is collected by the private sector for the marketing of the country. So the minister has to make sure that the memorandum of agreement that is signed between the entity and TPSSA is honored. And that is where the recommendation, in all, there are 37 recommendations, but the committee will notice that most of these are non-financial, but they have a lot to do with the financial management of, because they have to do with the budget that is appropriated. If these things are not in place, the entity and the department will not use the funds allocated accordingly. So that is the report, honorable members. That is a draft. So we will, at this stage, Chairperson, invite any inputs from the members to enhance the report, if any, as alluded to earlier. We then incorporate those and confer with you, Chair, for ATC. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Dr. Kuzwayo. Honorable members, there you have the BRRR report. Now open up for any comments, any inputs. May I see hands, honorable members? Honorable Mootley.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start off by saying this report is damning. And I must say, the truth came out, which I support, but I don't support the report. The TOMSA funding is actually our money. Citing that the minister doesn't know what she's doing. That's why we haven't got that money yet. And I think it's the first time in the history of this parliament that we didn't get this money. Seriously, something needs to happen about the way she runs this department. I haven't seen her in any meeting for the last, I don't know. I know I've been hospital chair. I just came out and I never saw this report. I'm seeing this report for the first time. I know they've sent it, but I didn't get sight of it. So MK can't support this report. There's questions on every single item. You'll be getting a qualified report. I'm sure the other members will ask a lot of questions, but I hope when it comes to the final thing, every political party will vote against this thing, because it's not the way we run business. So, it's nice to have a lot of questions, But when it comes to time to really pass this in Parliament, well, what, in 2 weeks' time, when the BHR report is read, that the other political parties vote against it. It's useless talking now and raising a lot of questions, but when it comes time to vote for it, they vote for it. That's my take. MK won't support this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Moodley. But I also would like to afford you an opportunity to peruse the report because I saw that you have not had ample time to go through the report because this is our report. And also, you know, the report is also on oversight visits, etc., and so on. And then the recommendations that we are making. So, you know, I think there can be time afforded to you just to go through, just to make some, you know, also recommendations. I think recommendations are important to a finance department as well as, I mean, who doesn't want an increased budget? I mean, you know, especially when we are contributing so much to the GDP of the country. So that you get sufficient time to peruse the report and then you can write to Disang or send your inputs to Disang to incorporate.
I will, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Moodley. Honorable Maecho.
Where is more funding here? I don't see any place to ask for paying us more money.
Honorable Maecho.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to honorable members. Chair, I have been experiencing a problem of emails in as far as the documents are concerned. But safe to say that I managed to peruse the report while the doctor was presenting it. But I've raised my matter with the the committee secretary, and he's noted that he will work on the issue of me getting the documents in time. Let me not waste time, Chair. I want to welcome this report, and the report is well crafted, and the recommendation are also welcomed. Let me go to the department's recommendation 8.28. 8.28. Sorry, sorry about that. Where it says, I'm using the phone, 8.28, yes. Ensure that the disbursement of tourism transformation fund and the tourism equity fund, yes, that one. I would want to sponsor as well a recommendation that we must equally ask a question while we are supporting that recommendation, because we have many qualifying applications which are pending processing due to the minister's decision to stop the activities of the tourism equity fund pending the migration to another implementing agent as per the APP. So I think that the question will be, what will be the time frame of fast-tracking this pending application? Because we have poor people who have applied, who have followed procedures, who have followed all the prerequisites in terms of the fund itself, but they are still waiting for their application to be approved. So I think that we need to put a question on that one to say what will be a time frame, doctor. But equally, we must also to sponsor on the very same 8.28. We need to to the recommendations say must also add to say we need to speed up such a migration, because the first it is it's a question we need to speed up such a migration and or to ensure that all applications are urgently processed given the challenges that SMMEs are facing in accessing funding support in the sector. So that will be on the 8.2.8, 8.29. Let me go to 8.29. Yeah, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it here. Here we must also add that the recommendation that the minister must consider the implementation of the Tourism Equity Fund going forward and its status with regard to ensuring that there are no delays on the applications. And then the last one, the last one will be on the SA Tourism Board. They are not on recommendation, but the comment that the doctor made that the current interim board is being appointed while we have the previous board that has taken the minister to court. The matter has not been yet in court. Yet we have a normal life in terms of the running of the SAT. And that on its own, the content advisor says that this could have a negative implication in terms of the running of the entity itself. Now, I think this one, we need to be very clear that I'm not sure whether we got the report that the minister was claiming to have submitted to us during the interrogation portfolio committee meeting that we had with her and the members of the previous dissolved board. Because we can't behave as if everything is normal while the minister doesn't take this portfolio committee serious. Now, the issue is that I think we need to insist that the minister should provide, unless that I was not part of the previous meeting, where perhaps the chair did presented that information that indeed the minister provided such reports and such documents. But as things stand now, we can't have two. We have two boards. We have the one that is in court, and then we have the one of the minister that she insists that it must carry on with the normal duties of the board, which in my view is a duplication of some sort of functions. And therefore, we can't, as an oversight committee of parliament, allow that to happen. When we know for the fact that the very same interim committee again have not also provided us with the consequence management report of the CEO or the actions that they have taken against the CEO who was suspended by the previously dissolved board by the minister. Where is the report? Because the minister kept on saying that the interim board will provide us with the report so that they act on the CFO. To date, we are sitting here, we don't have that particular report. So I think in terms of this one, my contribution will be we need a comprehensive report from that interim board that is currently overseeing SAT on the CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Maetro. Honorable Linda.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much. Let me just open my notes. I have a trouble with my computer today. Chair, thank you for the report to Dr. Kuzwayo, and it's quite comprehensive, although it's very alarming. And I want to make a few comments as well as some inputs to the recommendation, Chair. So, the pandemic's most severe restrictions ended nearly 3 years ago, and the global tourism sector has largely moved on. And many of our competitor destinations not only recovering, but exceeding the arrivals. So the point I want to make, Chair, we need to stop looking in the rearview mirror at 2019. And we need to draft our reports that way as well. Today we need to have the conversation about what must be done here and now, and get specific action plans on how to overcome the man-made post-pandemic obstacles that is at this stage also prohibiting the growth of tourism. So yeah, it's really not great to read about COVID 3 years later. But Chair, based on the recommendations, and I'm sure we will send that in writing to Dr. Kuzwayo as well. I want to sponsor a few recommendations that the committee can consider. And on the ring fence proposal, I want to amend the proposal that it reads that the Minister of Finance ring fence funding for the recapitalization of the Tourism Equity Fund on the condition that the Minister of Tourism presenting within 60 days a comprehensive reform plan for the fund. This plan must include the appointment of an independent implementing agent, a streamlined and transparent application process, and a results-based framework with quarterly reporting to this committee. Without these fundamental governance reforms, any additional funding, Chair, will be wasted. My second recommendation, Chair, is that the Minister of Finance directs National Treasury to develop a standard return on investment framework for all departmental international travel. No funding for such missions should be approved without a pre-trip cost-benefit analysis and clearly defined measurable outcomes against which success will be judged. My third recommendation, ma'am, and there are four, is that the Minister, in conjunction with the Minister of Tourism, should commission a feasibility study to restructure SA Tourism into a public-private partnership. This would inject private sector expertise, governance, and funding, leveraging this withheld TOMSA levies, into the national marketing effort, insulating it from political instability and improving its effectiveness. Honourable Chair, then I want to also rephrase 8.1.2 that it reads that the Minister should mandate that the portion of the destination development budget be directly transferred to provinces and metros that demonstrate proven project management capacity, bypassing ineffective national implementing agents. Furthermore, explore matching funding models where government grants are paired with private sector investment for tourism infrastructure, ensuring market relevance and financial discipline. Chair, I will also send this in writing to Dr. Kuzwayo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Linda. Honourable Ishmael.
Thank you, Chair, once again. And while I've been obviously, covered by most of my colleagues, especially Honourable Maetro, I agree with the Honourable Maetro when we need a comprehensive report from the interim board regarding the CEO or the precautionary suspended CEO Guliwe. I think that is very, very, very important. I think the, Dr. Kuzwayo has actually covered the SAT financial controls, continue to be unsatisfactory under Guliwe with material findings and problems with the AFS and its compliance with accepted accounting standards. I think he's even covered the Department of Tourism didn't even hit half of its job creation targets last year. I think our report does clarify the SAT performed poorly in implementation of audit recommendations. And I think he touched on SAT didn't receive the TOMSA levies in the last financial year. That's actually 130 million rand in funding or more that they don't have because of how poor their performance was. And I think, yes, it's important for us also to get the MOU between the TBCSA and the minister, because I believe it's a closed document right now. And I think it's important for us to do oversight to know exactly what is in that memorandum of understanding. So I'm not sure if that can be added onto one of those pointers there with regard to the TOMSA levy. And then again, with the DBSA projects, I think Doc has actually somewhat covered it, but I think we need to actually add that before asking for more funds for DBSA projects, penalty fees or penalty funds, or the accumulated penalties that the contractor actually owes must be utilized first before asking for more taxpayers' money. I think this is important because we are finding over and over again that DBSA projects are now asking for more and more and more funds simply because they don't do a proper analysis right in the beginning of the project, which is obviously a problem. And they also don't actually know at the beginning of the project which stakeholder, that is, whether it's the municipality or the province or any other stakeholder that will actually take charge of the project once completed. And I think this must be definitely included in every DBSA project that's going to be, still taking place. We have advised, obviously, or we have actually discussed the fact that we must do away with these small ones and rather look at something major, something more constructive. But we don't want white elephants, that are now left to be vandalized simply because these are actually not in place with regard to stakeholders that will be taking responsibility for these projects once they are actually, the monies have been spent and they're actually now on the ground. We're finding that there's a loophole when we're going on oversight visits to say that these are now done. I mean, we've seen it ourselves when we went as a committee as well. These are now done, but these are left to be vandalized. As a result, more and more monies are now being requested for. And I think even before the monies are actually given or even identified to be given, penalties via contractors must actually be used first. And then my colleague has given actually, I think, quite a few recommendations. I just want to add one more. The committee recommends that all incentives and equity programs focus on ending poverty and achieving economic growth for all through a focus on alignment with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as aligned to GNU priorities. I will send this through as well. Thank you, Chair. That's all from me.
Thank you, Honorable Ishmael. Are there any other hands there?
Yo, Chair, I don't think my hand, I've been waiting and I was the first to put it up. So maybe my hand doesn't.
You may proceed. You may proceed, Honorable Tlongo.
Chair. Comrades, honorable members have covered me. I'm sorry about that. Chair, I honorable, sorry. I'm from an area. I'm sorry about that. Dr. Kuzo will guide me, but I feel like the township tourism and rural tourism is not serviced properly both by SAT and the department. Now, I don't know how to, but I think we recommendation that puts the department in a corner. Maybe out programs should be more visible in our rural areas, because we went to outside Chair. If the lady of the Soweto Hotel doesn't know about the equity fund, it tells you that majority of people don't know about these services that needs to service them. So the department should do much or more when it comes to outreach programs, especially in the rural and township areas, in the people about these programs that are in place for them, doing our own oversight, or whether in our own constituencies or with the whole committee, it is clear that I mean, where I come from, when you tell a person there is a SAT, they ask you what is SAT. You tell them the department fund, because the department really does not do much, Chair. I don't want to lie. So I think there should be a recommendation that speaks about their outreach programs that goes down to the rural communities to just educate them about all these services that the department has in regard to uplifting these small SMME rural and township areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tlongo. Is there any other honorable member who would like to make an input? Coming silence means there's no one. Over to you, Dr. Kuzwayo. You've received now the inputs from all honorable members, and I think those members that have indicated they will submit in writing to you as well for incorporation. Doc, over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and members. We have noted the inputs and we will incorporate them accordingly. It will assist us, honorable members, because members, I think the inputs that you were given, it sounds like they are written somewhere. If you may just send those to Disang, maybe immediately after the meeting, so that after the meeting we're able on our side to incorporate, because for example, the inputs from Honorable Linde, there were many and substantive, and she was moving fast. I couldn't capture everything that the honorable member was saying. But Chairperson and honorable members, I want to dwell. It's your decision. It's from our side is your support. It's just to alert members to the implications of some of the recommendations that have been put by members. I will deal with one that can have a serious, or that has an implications for a serious policy, or that is in a serious policy domain. With regard to restructuring of South African tourism, there was a recommendation from Honorable Linde to say that a recommendation must be made to the Minister of Finance to look at, I'm just paraphrasing the recommendation, a recommendation must be made to the Minister of Finance to look at ways in how South African tourism can be transformed or changed from being a Schedule 3 public entity to a public-private partnership. That has a serious policy implication. So maybe, I'm not sure whether, because it is not ours not to take or to debate the recommendation, but it's for the committee. If the committee agrees with the recommendation as such, we will incorporate it. But ours from support staff is just to alert members that it has a serious policy implication, because that will make SAT to cease from being a Schedule 3 entity into something else. And if members will recall, in the State of the Nation address, the President had said there's going to be a review and a development of a new public PPP model for the state. And I haven't seen a report in terms of that PPP model for the state. So I'm just saying we note all the recommendations, but really it is our duty as the support staff to alert the committee that recommendation in particular. Others, though they delve into, but they don't have such a serious implication as this one of really changing SAT from a public entity into some form of a PPP with the state being in partnership or equal partnership with the private sector. So the issues of the TOMSA levy and so on were already there is a partnership, but it is through an MOU in terms of funding. Is not a policy matter in terms of configuring the entire entity. So on that one, Chair, my request will be maybe before we incorporate that, maybe for the committee to seriously look at that now, whether we put it as such to say you are reconfiguring SAT, or maybe we wait for the PPP model for government that was announced by the president. Then maybe in the next financial year, we take a cue from that and then to make a recommendation. So others, yeah, there are those that I have a serious policy, but this one really will be a fundamental shift in terms of how, or fundamental shift in the existence of the entity, and it will need the legislation, Tourism Act, to be completely overhauled because the entity is established in terms of the Tourism Act 14 of Tourism Act of 2014. So this recommendation will need the act, the whole establishment of the entity in the act to be repealed, and a new form of an entity that is a PPP to be formed. So that is my submission, Chair, from an advice from your support staff as a committee to say this recommendation has a serious policy dynamics and implication. So we want to hear from the committee, Chair, before we really incorporate that. Otherwise, we have no qualms with incorporating it because it comes from the committee, but really it's for us to be sure that the committee wants it as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I would just, make a recommendation to say, let's alter the words because if you look even at the Act, it incorporates SAT there. You can't just wipe out the whole Act and then move over to public-private partnership. We should be saying investigate the feasibility of a public-private partnership. Because now we are making a recommendation without having had an investigation and whether it's feasible to do so. So I would change the English phrasing and say investigate the feasibility of a public-private partnership for SAT, so that those who need to go and do their work, as well as I know it will have ramifications when it comes to the legislation, it will have ramifications there as well. And then SAT also having the majority budget of the department, it will just really have ramifications. We also need to look into the history of when the tourism portfolio was put together, and how this department only has one entity, whilst other departments have several entities, and then now wanting to take away the only entity of the department. So hence I'm saying we need to rephrase and say investigate the feasibility, because we, as this portfolio committee, we've not done feasibility studies, so we don't know what is feasible and what is not feasible. That would be from my side, Doc. I see Honorable Stongo, Honorable Linda, and Honorable Ishmael. I see your hands. Are those legacy hands, or you would like to take another bite?
Ma'am, I would like to take another bite, please.
Okay,
Me
sure.
too.
Honorable, let me just check the time. Okay, sure. Honorable Linda, you may proceed. Is it Honorable Ishmael again? Honorable Ishmael, is that a legacy hand?
No, I would like to speak after Honorable Linda, please.
Okay, sure. And then Honorable Tlongo, I see also Honorable Tlongo's hand there.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much for your input. Yes, you will see that Honorable Ishmael has posted the recommendations that I made on the group, and it says that we do the feasibility study. So the recommendation reads that the Minister, in conjunction with the Minister of Tourism, should commission a feasibility study to restructure SA tourism. So that is the proposal, and it is based on what the President has said. That's why I made this recommendation, just to show that we are all on the same page, looking into the possibilities of public-private partnerships. So, Chair, thank you for alerting to that.
Chair, I'm assuming I can speak now. Okay, I think my colleague is somewhat covered, because I'm actually looking at point 1 as well. We can definitely recommend, we're not violating any separation of powers there as well. And the fact that we're saying feasibility studies, I think it's covering the fact that we're not dictating. We are simply saying that if we investigate via a feasibility study, we are actually, we are allowed to recommend that. I think feasibility studies is something that's key, because it is obviously sort of evidence-based as well. So I just wanted to second that, Chair, actually third that now, because Honorable Linda has just spoken before me as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable Ishmael, Honorable Maecho.
Chair, me.
Sorry, Honorable Tlongo, I forgot you guys are preparing for the bus, and so I can't see your hands. Disang, just assist me quickly.
You had noted before, Honorable Maecho, Chair, I think as a committee, we should also take into consideration the advice that was brought forward to us by the content creator regarding this matter. In as much as we do submit, but also, Chair, do take into consideration the advice that the content advisor has really put forward to this matter, Chair. Thanks. I wanted just to bring in that.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Tlongo. You've jumped. Honorable Maecho. Honorable Maecho?
No, thank you, Chair. In support of what you have just proposed, because the content advisor correctly put it that this then is our report. And when it is our report, of course, guided by the principles of policy, as well as ensuring that we don't encroach in terms of the work of the executive and our work. But like I said, that in support of what you have just alluded to in your last input, to say that let's rephrase that recommendation to say that we have to allow the department to the entity, even the content advisor, to further do a feasibility in terms of private-public partnership in order to protect what then becomes the state capacity, because we are actually becoming a developing state. So when we become a developing state, we need not to outsource the capacity of the state too much to the private sector. But the collaboration will be welcomed. However, where there is too much capacity in the state, let's support and let's provide more support with regard to that. So I do support that. Let's conduct a feasibility before we can then bring the element of triple P. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Maecho. Are there any other hands? I'm not seeing Honorable Mashabela or I don't see.
There are no more hands, Chair.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Kuzwayo, for the presentation. And I think all honorable members, they will then send to you their comments in writing. I would also just like to move now to our last item on the agenda, which is we still have, I think, 5 sets of minutes that Disang have to take us through. Disang, I think you now don't need to just go through slowly, you need to gallop, because there are honorable members that have to take the transportation at 12:30. You may proceed, Disang, with the minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I would suggest, in the interest of time, maybe I should go through all of them, and then the members can deal with them afterwards. This is the minutes of the 9th of September. It was in committee room 1. It was when we did the strategic planning session of the portfolio committee. Some members of the committee that were present. And then the chairperson, opening by the chairperson, then the content advisor presented the draft strategic planning committee, and then also the annual performance plan for the committee. And then the committee had welcomed that draft strategic plan and adopted it. That was the meeting, Chair. It was I think it was the first round where it was only the presentation plan and the annual performance plan, Chair. And then these minutes of the joint meeting, Chairperson, that happened last week, of the portfolio committee on tourism and labor. The minutes have been shared with the portfolio committee on labor for concurrence. So it was basically on the 21st of October, and it was the briefing by FEDASA, TBS, TBCSA, and the Department of Employment and Labor on the employment of foreigners. And then those were all the delegates that came. And then these were the recommendations that were made by the committee chair. Then there's the minutes of the 14th of October. It was the, no, that's not. One second, Chairperson, my apologies.
Okay, sure, Disang, we're just
I'm
waiting
not
for
sure what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening with my laptop here.
The set of minutes of when?
I'm looking for the 14th of October and the 2nd of September. Yeah.
Okay, I don't have sharing rights.
Okay.
If I have sharing rights, I can share. You said
No, it
14,
happens. It happens sometimes.
14
Okay.
September. And okay, there.
This one was the minutes of the 16th of September. It was basically briefing by AGSA on the audit outcomes for 2024-25, briefing by the Department of Tourism on the annual report, and then briefing by SA Tourism on their annual report and financial statements for 2024-25. That's what the members present, and then the introduction, the consideration of the 5-year strategic plan annual report. Hey, Chair, I don't know what happened with my system.
It is like the report appears and disappears.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know myself what's happening there with your screen sharing.
Yeah, in the interest of time, maybe we should put them in abeyance, Chair.
Which ones did you not do? Which ones did you not do now, Disang?
The 2nd of September and the 14th of October.
2nd September, 14 October. Okay, here's the 14th of October, it's on the screen. Disang? Disang, 14th of October is on the screen?
Yes, I got it, Chair.
Okay, sure.
Someone
Yeah,
have
it
shared
was-
this one.
Will you share?
Yeah, I'm sharing. I'm not sure it's appearing, but I'm sharing from my side.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, Doc, that's the one. The AGSA audit outcomes, the Department of Tourism and on the annual report and financial statements, and the AGSA on the audit outcomes. If we move down, Doc. Yeah, that's the one, Doc. And then the introduction of the was done by the chairperson, the presentation by the Auditor General on the audit outcomes, and then the presentation by the Department of Tourism on the annual report for 2024-25. It was led by the DG, and the presentation by South African Tourism on the annual report, and then the recommendations of the committee. These are recommendations that we have also used for the budgetary review and recommendations report that was presented today. Thank you, Doc. I don't know why all of a sudden my document seems to be.
Disang?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, you disappeared there.
Yes. We are done with that one, Chair.
Okay, sure. Are we done with the entire set of documents?
The 2nd of September, Doc.
That's the last one.
I'm trying to locate the sign. You can try and locate it on the site as well. Chairperson, maybe for the interest of time, may we forego this set of minutes to be considered in the next meeting? Oh, no, it's there.
Disang, you may proceed.
No, but this is 2 September.
Yeah, it is 2nd September.
Okay.
That was the set of minutes he was looking for.
Oh, I was looking for 2nd October. I was on the wrong. Sorry, Chairperson.
Disang?
Yeah, okay, I was muted, Chair. Reasons for the resignation of the chairperson of the South African Tourism Board, reasons for the minister's decision to dissolve the South African Tourism Board, appointment of the new South African Tourism Board, update on circumstances surrounding the suspension of the Chief Executive Officer, recommendations and implementation of the forensic investigation report, and also briefing by the dissolved board of SAT on the governance challenges. These were members of the committee to the present. The meeting was attended by the officials led by the minister presented. So it was an introduction by the chairperson, a presentation by the minister. We just give a synopsis, even though we have never received the written presentation of the minister, Chair. 3 is presentation by the dissolved board. Presentation is available. Presentation by the former chairperson of the board, Ms. Kanyile, and deputy chairperson. The deliberations in relation to the contravention of legislation. The leadership crisis in SA tourism. The financial management and allegations against the suspended chief executive officer. Corporate governance, overreach by the minister. The reappointment of Ms. Koleka Zama. These were some of the issues that the committee noted. And the closure and resolutions of that particular meeting, Chair. Those are the minutes, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Disang. Honorable members, that is the sets of minutes that we have received, and hopefully you have gone through it. If there is any correctness of minutes that you would like to make, then you can proceed. I'm not seeing any hand and I'm not hearing anyone. So I take it that the yes,
Thank you, Chair. I think the minutes are a true reflection of all the meetings as Disang was presenting. And if there's no any other hand, Chair, I move that we adopt the sets of minutes that were presented to us as a true reflection of all our meetings. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Flongo. There's a proposal for the adoption of the minutes. Honorable Likharaba.
Thank you, Chair. I second the proposal that all minutes be adopted as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Likharaba. And with that said, our minutes are adopted. Honorable members, just a reminder, just to send through your inputs in writing. I know Honorable Mutley, I've also told Honorable Mutley to send it through. Honorable Ishmael, Honorable Linda, Honorable Maecho and Tlongo, those that have made inputs on today's BRRR report, to just submit through to Disang. Thank you very much, honorable members, and that brings us to the end of our meeting today. I would like us to do just a proper time management for next time, Disang, so that we ensure that, honorable members are released in time so that they can take the buses to Parliament Precinct. Because I know there are some of them now that are probably rushing to those buses, or they are waiting for the 12:30 bus. But we have done a good time today. We are done at 12 minutes past 12. And I think we need to structure also our committee in that way, that when there is a sitting, a plenary, that we take cognizance of the fact that members need to travel as well. With that said, have a blessed day, honorable members, and we see each other next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.